Hi, everybody. We're going to be looking at N13 proofs involving quadrilaterals. Okay, so looking at some proofs. This first one right here. All right, so they got QS bisects RQT and RST. Complete the proof. QR is congruent to QT. Okay, so you always, what they give you always write that down first. So the statement QS bisects RQT, you can write that down and the reasons can be given. Same thing for QS. The next one, RQS. So let me write that out. RQS. So this angle right there is going to be congruent to SQT. So SQT right there. So those two angles are going to be congruent to each other. All right. The other next two angles are going to be congruent to each other. I'm just changing my color so you can see it. QSR, QSR right there is going to be congruent to QST, QST. So these two right there. And do an extra line there so you can see it. So this is what they've given us so far. All right, next they're going to tell us that QS is congruent to QS. That's a reflexive property of congruence. Okay. And now they're looking for these two triangles. What can we solve for angle, side, 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 angle, angle, side, etc. So you have QRS is congruent to QTS. All right, so let's look down at that. So ASA lets you deduce that QRS is congruent to QTS from line 3 right there. So those two angles are congruent to each other. And then also in line 4, those two angles, and then that line right there. Okay, so it's gonna be angle, side, angle on that. All right, the next one we're looking for is QR. So QR, this outside right here, is gonna be congruent to QT right there. Okay, so that's gonna be the corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So CP, CT, CPC, TC. It's hard to say quickly. So that's going to be for number 7 right there. All right. Let's look back at the actual picture. So that's going to be QR and QT because of line 6. So these two triangles are congruent to each other. So that means these two outside lines will be congruent as well. All right, let's take a look. Okay, next one we're going to look at right here. You have IJ is parallel to GH. IJ, so right here is parallel to GH. So parallel means they're never going to touch. Okay, the lines are going to go on forever. Complete the proof that GJ is congruent to HI. All right, so they gave us, as you can see, the markings already, the red marks, that IJ is going to be congruent to GH. Okay, so those are 2 red marks. Then they also gave us that IJ is going to be parallel to GH. Okay, so we know these 2 lines are parallel. Okay, so the next one, GIJ, GIJ. So that's going to be this one right there. It's going to be congruent to GHI, which is going to be the alternative interior angles theorem. Okay, so you might remember this from the other proofs from another lesson, but these are alternative interior angles theorem. All right, and then GI is going to be congruent to GI. Pretty much whenever you're looking at this section, if they're looking for that line in the middle right there, the bisector, it's going to be the reflexive property of congruence. All right, now we're going to look at the triangles. So we're looking at GHI, so GHI right there. It's going to be congruent to the other triangle on the other side. So IJG, okay. So the angle, you have a side. And then we just solve for another angle. Okay, so that's going to be side, angle, side, based off that information in line 3 right there. And then what they gave us before, the 2 outside sides right there are going to be congruent. So that's side, angle, side. All right, then lastly, CPCTC is going to be the last one. So GJ and HI are going to be congruent because of the CP corresponding parts, corresponding triangles are congruent. Okay, so I'll leave this in the notes as well so you can look back at that. But these drop downs will have different options. You just want to make sure you click the correct one. So you can eliminate a lot of them pretty quickly. And the more you do, honestly, the more you see this and you see these examples, even if you get it incorrect, and you'll see how they work through, and it really helps a lot. Okay, so let's look at the next one. Okay, you have SV, it's congruent to TV, or TU, excuse me, and then UV is congruent to ST. All right, then complete the proof that SUV is going to be congruent to TSU. Okay, so they give us the first two. So we're going to just write that reason is given. SU and SU are going to be congruent to each other. It's a reflexive property of congruence. And then we're looking at, remember, so they just gave us SU in the middle. So that means I'm going to do this third mark right here. So these three sides are equal. So this one is going to be side, side, and side, SSS. Okay. And then lastly, SUV, and TSU are going to be congruent to each other. That's going to be the corresponding parts. Corresponding parts, go back to that definition back here. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. CPCTC, 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 okay? All right, so the next one, complete the proof. FG is on this side right there, is going to be congruent to EH. And they actually give us most of it, and I just have to solve for that one side. So F and H are, those angles are going to be congruent. That's a given. So the red mark's already on there. GH and EF are going to be congruent right there. And then we're looking for FE, so FEG and EGH right there. And that one is going to be the alternative interior angles. Theorem. Okay. So right down here, they'll show you. Okay, looking at that again. And then look at the other ones just to look, because when we get to the more advanced ones, you're gonna have to figure them all out. EG in the middle, it's congruent to EG. Whenever there's the two lines that are the same, so EG and EG, AB and AB, etc. Reflexive property of congruence, it's always gonna be that. Okay, this one is gonna be angle, angle, side. So you have F, E, and then we have this in over here. So we have angle, angle, and then we have side right there. All right, and then last part is corresponding parts of corresponding triangles are congruent. All right, let's complete this proof here. That angle W is equal to angle U. Okay, so they give us these first two right there. So they have the markings there and there and there and there. TV and TV, I think you guys can tell me, we just worked on this, so this is going to be the reflexive. Property of congruence. I'm just going to leave it there. I think you know the rest. The next one here, so reflexive property, that means that this is going to be equal to itself, basically. So our TV is going to be equal to VT, or TV. So that means that's going to be the SSS, side, side, side. So all the sides are going to be equal in this triangle, which proves that a triangle is congruent. And then, so that means these last two angles right there and right there are going to be the corresponding parts, congruent triangles. Let's look at that one more time. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Okay, we're going to see that a lot. All right, and that's going to be it for this section.